We got a job to do tonight. Go out there, you wrestle your heart out.
Hey guys, Society Reviews here with my review of the film Queen of the Ring. The topic of women's wrestling has been an interesting one for the last several decades. If you're a fan of modern wrestling in the context of the last 30 years, then you've seen a lot of change in the way that women have been perceived in the pro wrestling bubble. In the 80s and the 90s, it was very difficult for women to get the popularity on the same plane as the men. With the rise of superstars such as Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and The Rock, there just wasn't a place for women on the mainstream wrestling circuit. Women's wrestling was at an all-time low point in the mid to late 90s, when most major wrestling organizations didn't even have a women's division. But the one thing that has always worked in its favor is that women's wrestling has always been seen as a feature in a male show. On paper that sounds like a negative, but in reality all it takes is one female star to set the tone for everyone else around her. Thanks to the recent contributions of women such as Chyna, Trish Stratus, Mickie James, and Charlotte Flair, women's wrestling has far more prominence now in the modern wrestling circles as a result. But that was not the case in a bygone era. To find out how women's wrestling started, we have to go back to the carnival days of the 1930s and the 1940s to understand how we got to this point. The first big name wrestling female superstar that the industry widely accepts is Mildred Burke, who became the first $1 million female wrestling act during a time when women's wrestling was banned in many US states. Emily Bette Rickards, who plays Burke, is a single mother who works at a diner who attends a very early prototype of a pro wrestling show. She meets a man named Billy Wolf who runs the circuit. Wolf is a womanizer with a violent temper, but he is credited for being the man who gave women's wrestling the biggest platform to succeed. As a result, he makes Burke the top draw of his show, and the duo showcasing themselves around the country begins to put women's wrestling on the map. With Burke's glowing popularity, more female wrestlers from around the country began to join their team. However, the legal and financial aspects of the partnership drove a wedge between them, and the fallout has a major effect on the future of women's wrestling. Queen of the Ring is a film that plays up to people with a more historical background in the history of pro wrestling. Fans of wrestling will notice many cameos in the film mixing both real-life female wrestlers and wrestling personas, which means that more hardcore wrestling fans will notice that the film takes a few more liberties with the real-life events that took place. Nothing that's too jarring to take you out of the story, however. But from a casual audience perspective, the film is a peel behind the curtain for just how difficult it was for women to find acceptance in a male-dominated industry without the eye-rolling melodrama that comes with modern films portraying women as the victims. The film showcases the difficulty of the promotional side of the business, not just when it comes to selling women's wrestling to an audience, but when it comes to selling them to senators and congressmen, hoping that overzealous athletic commissions of the states will overturn their bans on women wrestling, which mostly did not happen fully until the 1970s. As a film, the movie is very entertaining by showcasing a colorful collection of characters, each having their own intriguing storyline of how they got here. The story is only as interesting as the characters that are presented on screen, and Queen in the Ring does a good job of mixing persona with personality that keeps audiences engaged for a runtime that's almost 2.5 hours. While the film isn't quite emotionally as strong as 2023's Iron Claw, Queen of the Ring is a film that is going to hit right with just about every major demographic it's trying to market to. The acting of the cast is brilliant as the film balances the performances of real-life actresses with the believability of real-life female wrestlers, creating a strong balance in the story's narrative. What sets Queen of the Ring apart from its predecessors is that you could tell that this film was made by people who care about the wrestling industry and wanted to showcase it in a way that gives both flowers to the pioneers of the business while showing respect to the traditions of it as well. Queen of the Ring is an enjoyable and entertaining film. Whether it ends up on the best movies of 2025 list is too early to tell, but you will be hard-pressed to find many films with a stronger and more well-crafted drama than this. I give this film a 4 out of 5.
Women can headline arenas, I know that we can.
My main event is heavyweights and then male.
Let's show them how we do it in the South.